So let me share this screen, and we're gonna talk about that P Diddy case and what some lawyers are saying about how a reason why he actually might walk. But let me share the screen. Mhm.
Suge Knight, Matthew Fletcher. And interestingly, I think you both completely disagree here. Matthew, let me start with you. You think this case of Diddy being railroaded and that the case is almost borderline farcical. Why do you say that?
Well, why it's farcical to me is this idea of this mythical creature that can take ketamine and MDA and booze and then have sex for dozens of days on end and hours. That pharmacological standpoint, that's not possible. This idea that Cassie waits 12 years to file a lawsuit and writes a book and then doesn't turn it over to a general publishing group, but sends it to Jay-Z's lawyer and says, by the way, we're going to put this out unless you pay us millions of dollars, bespeaks the real motives behind this. And let me just say this. Puff is not a good person. He's a bad woman beater and he's a coward. I know the guy. Everybody I know agrees. It's not a case about domestic violence. You can talk about trauma bonding and any other psychological terms you want to lay on there, but the idea that Cassie had her own apartment, had her own money, had her own extra boyfriends or anything else does not speak to me as a traditional victim that we would see in a case of spousal abuse where this is ongoing. And I'll tell you this, when the prosecution told everyone that P. Diddy urinated in her mouth, that was shocking. When Daniel Phillip comes on and says, no, actually the person who urinated told me to urinate in her mouth was Cassie. And not only did she tell me that, she gave a tutorial and said, you want to do it slowly to make it last longer. At that point in time, the old adage is you can't win a trial with the first witness, but you can sure lose a trial. That lost me.
See what I'm saying? It's true. It's true. This girl, she was willingly participating in these activities. So that's just my opinion. That's my take. And I feel as he has a good point. I've been hearing a lot more people saying, and the case is the trial is a little bit early, but people are making a lot of cases why Diddy might actually walk, right? Ending up like walking. So we're gonna continue this a little bit.
Because what you're talking about now is an allegation that this, and I'm going to use its Mandingo stereotype of this crazed black man who 5 white women who are saying this man's sexual needs are insatiable and they can have sex for hours and hours and never rest and always ejaculate. That's not true from a pharmacological standpoint. That is absurd. If this was these or 70s in Mississippi, I think people would be irate. I don't like that video speaks for itself. The question is, why wasn't he prosecuted for that? The question is, why wasn't he prosecuted for all of these crimes that have allegedly occurred, but we save it all up and we bring it in this case? And to Mr. Busby's point, this idea that the federal government does no wrong in prosecuting people, it's kind of ironic that a Comey is on this case and a Comey also, he doesn't need my advice, but they told us that President Trump was a spy for Russia too. And that was complete BS. And we know that was. And so this idea and concept that the government does no wrong, federal government does no wrong in bringing cases, I don't think it's true. This is not a strong case. This is a case that if they prosecute it or defend it correctly, and you point out the idea that Cassie says Combs raped her and then she went back to his house sometime later and were having sex, and then her husband FaceTimed her. and she can't remember if she was actually had that man's genitals in her while she was FaceTiming her husband.
Wow.
That's not
That girl's
believable.
messy, man.
It's not believable to me. No one would believe that. And it's just part of a long line of, as Busby says, these are bricks. A brick is not a wall, but a brick hits you in the head. A brick still hits you in the head.
Hold on, guys. Yeah, man. Honestly, if you haven't seen that for yourself, I just wanted to bring that up. Conclusive evidence about why Diddy will walk, but I am hearing people making the case for the reason why he actually might walk. So I just thought I'd bring that to your attention. I'm not gonna make the video too long, but let me know what you guys think in the comments section. Agree, or if not, be sure to like, share, and subscribe.